Welcome to FNF Victory Road Draft League Season 2 Team Analysis. In this series, I will be analyzing the teams that participated in the FNF Victory Road Draft League Season 2, sometimes through a voice call with the coach of that team, and sometimes they'll be DMing me their thoughts and then I'll say it. So this time around, the latter is the case. We are going to be looking at Harlem Gloomtrotters, which was headed by DrizzleBoy, and he DM'd me his thoughts on his team. Before we take a look at that initial team that we have listed there, the reason he chose the logo is because Vileplume is his favorite Pokemon for a while, actually. If you had known him when he first joined the server, he actually had a Vileplume profile picture, and I think he kept that for like months. I think he was kind of new to Discord when he joined. He is one of the people who actually found this league through YouTube. He joined the server late last season, Season 1, and he was pretty cool to talk to. He was pretty supportive, he was interested in the league, and he was very interested in joining the next season. So I'm really happy that he was able to join the next season, and he showed us what he was capable of. Another fun fact, he's actually the youngest member of the league. I know when I was his age, I definitely did not know Pokemon strategies as well as he did. So I find his performance extremely impressive, especially considering that fact. And I do look forward to see how he continues battling. He did also join the Orberg Gate Draft League, and he has been doing really well there at the moment. He's in semifinals of playoffs, so congratulations to DrizzleBoy for that. And so we're going to jump right in and take a look at the team he drafted. This is his initial team. He did make a couple of exchanges throughout the league, but this is the first team he got. He did point out that he was extremely happy when he was drafting because he did not get sniped. So he actually got the team that he really wanted to get, and we're going to take a look at that. His thought process behind this was that he definitely wanted to have every single type on his team, so options for any type he needed. He wanted every single hazard on his team, so he did manage to get that as well. He had Toxic Spikes, Stealth Rock, Sticky Web, and Spikes support from a bunch of his Pokemon, so he had a lot of options in that case as well. He wanted a strong offensive Tier 1 Dragon, which he did get in Latios, and he wanted a high-tier, decent Fairy Steel Dragon Core, which he also did get, Latios and Ferrothorn being Tier 1, and then Slurpuff being Tier 3. So a very nice grab for him, and he was able to form a really nice core with those Pokemon. Additionally, he did want to get a Psychic Dark Fighting Core, and he did get that. He got Mega Medicham. For Psychic types, he actually had Mega Medicham and Latios, and then for a Dark type, he had Drapion as an option. So he did have that as well, and we also see that core being used by him quite a bit. So I thought overall he had a really interesting team. One of the aspects that I personally liked about his team was that he used a lot of Pokemon that might have been considered low tier or not very regarded, but he managed to make them work. So that's something I also respect a lot about his team. He did use some of his Tier 5 Pokemon or Tier 4 Pokemon as well to his advantage. Especially Rhydon, we'll see Flareon, Avalugg, not so much, but when he makes a trade, Cryogonal. So we're going to look at all of that, but overall I think his team was pretty solid, and he had quite a few surprise picks in there. On the surface, if you look at his team, it might be like, wait, he's using all these underused Pokemon, but he actually made it work. So we're going to take a look at how he made it work and go on to his overall battle record. As you can see, he has 4-6, -6 differential. overall, especially for your first league, I think that this was pretty good. First FNF league, rather. He did participate in other leagues before FNF, but I do think this was a pretty good performance, especially having some really good victories versus some really strong teams. He did not seem to lose by a really big margin. He never had any -6s or -5s. He didn't win by super huge margins either. His battles were pretty close. There's a lot of trading back and forths in all his battles, so you'll see when he wins and loses, it's usually like by +2, +3, -2, -3, with some exceptions, of course, a +4 win and a -4 loss. But overall, I think he did pretty well. He overall thought he did good, but he said he was disappointed in himself at the end of the league. Maybe something like wasn't clicking with him team building. He was proud of some of his matchups for sure. He did say that the trainer he was actually most excited to face was me, he told me. And he was most scared to face Lion Hugs, both of which he did face in the league, and we'll be going over those battles. And he felt that he played his best match week 3, and which was versus Lion Hugs, who incidentally he was most scared to face. And he felt like the opponents that he didn't play as well against were Quest and Edgar. And so we'll take a look at all of those, but overall he did pretty well, and 4-6 is not a bad score at all. He did come close to making it to the playoffs, just shy of making it in, but I think he did a really good job. So let's take a look at some of the battles he had. The first one was versus Rio Grande Rapidash, and in this battle, he did have trouble with Dragalge, it seemed. Dragalge was a really good defensive option coming in on quite a few of his Pokemon, including Ferrothorn, Flareon, and Raikou. And when Ember set up Substitute with Dragalge, it not only was able to tank a hit, but it was also able to hit hard too, as we saw versus Raikou. Once Milotic went down, he did have a little bit more freedom, but Rapidash at the end with a Choice Scarf was able to clean up pretty well. I think the one thing that would have improved his matchup in this one was definitely saving Rhydon for the late game. Early in this battle, he used Rhydon versus Milotic, and I think a switch out into Latios or Raikou, for example, versus Milotic would have been able to pressure it out without him losing Rhydon in the beginning, because Rhydon would have had a pretty nice matchup versus a few of the Pokemon after Rock Polish, which he did pack. This is the first time we see him use Rhydon, but it does hint at how he generally uses Rhydon the rest of the league. We see a lot of Rock Polish Rhydon that goes for more offensive, maybe setting up Stealth Rock, but not as much defensive Rhydon. So he does like to pack that offense pretty hard. And I think if he used that in this battle, it could have been a little bit closer for him. But still a really interesting battle. He did say that he thought he had a good matchup and good preparation, and he wanted Latios to do more in this battle. I think that Latios had trouble finding a time where it could come in and really do what it wanted to do, but it wasn't a bad loss by any means. It was still an exciting battle, especially if you watch this battle. So the next battle is versus the Visionary Tricksters, and this was Harlem Gloomtrotters' first win. With the Visionary Tricksters battle, it was interesting because there were a lot of moments where I thought that switches were going to happen and they didn't. For example, Hitmontop led versus, I believe, Mega Metacham and did not switch out, instead went for the Toxic on Mega Metacham. So that was an interesting moment. The biggest thing that stood out to me in this battle, and that DrizzleBoy had told me himself, was that he was constantly applying offensive pressure versus King Fuse, and he felt that he was able to win this battle because he was applying offensive pressure, and King Fuse's team this time was rather passive. So I think that gave him an edge in this battle. Interestingly, we do see in this match, Ferrothorn was able to take multiple flamethrowers from Clefable, which was crazy to me. I was wondering if that was what kind of offense Clefable was packing in terms of EVs, but crazy when you see Ferrothorn taking Fire-type moves and living comfortably. And yeah, just constant offensive pressure using Mega Metacham's serious wall-breaking ability, Latios with Calm Mind, bringing out Draco Meteors, and Rhydon even with the Rock Polish and using Edgequake, which is really hard to work around. So his offense definitely won him a battle there, and I think that he will continue overall using offensive options in this league. He does have a few defensive options, but overall his playstyle seemed to lean more towards offense. So the next battle we have is Florida Flesh Ribbons versus Harlem Gloomtrotters, and this was really a back and forth. In fact, Florida Flesh Ribbons was winning in the first part of the match, the first three-fourths, I'd say, of the match. Lion Hugs really did have it in control. The one thing about this match that I think DrizzleBoy did right was weakening everything enough to the point where he was able to sweep at the end with Slurpuff. And this is pretty much the moment where we see also DrizzleBoy. I think at this point he really started to like his Slurpuff a lot. Like, he liked his Slurpuff before, but after this sweep, Slurpuff really asserted itself and its dominance in the league. And so Slurpuff, I think, also went on the MVP list after this. So this was one of those defining moments for his team identity. I think he used Silvally to his advantage really well too, and that's something that he also said. He said that this battle was probably his best performance, which was really cool because this was the team he was most scared to face. Slurpuff was able to unburden Belly Drum on Piloswine. That was that one moment he needed after everything was weakened to go ahead and go for that sweep, and that's exactly what he did, and that was how he emerged victorious. So after this week, he traded Avalugg for Cryogonal. Avalugg being a Pokemon that he hadn't used yet in any of his battles, and the reasoning behind this exchange is that he wanted a special attacker that was fast and could also rapid spin and recover. So Avalugg had that niche of being an ice type that could rapid spin and recover. Cryogonal had that, as well as being fast and being able to special attacks, considering a lot of his offensive presence came from strong attacking mons. This gave him a little bit more of a special attacking option for offense. He did lose on some of the defense from Avalugg, but since he didn't use it in the past, it didn't seem like there was ever a time where he really needed a defensive ice type, so I do think this was a good exchange for him. So we move on to Pitiful Punching Bags versus Harlem Gloomtrotters, and this was a loss for Harlem Gloomtrotters. He did say that he felt like he could have done more in this one. It was unfortunate because he forgot that Raikou had Roar when Raikou was faced off against Wobbuffet. So for that reason, against Komo-o. So for that reason, he did not use Roar, and Komo-o was able to set up a belly drum and substitute and go for a sweep. The battle itself before was actually pretty even until Komo-o was able to set up. There was a lot of back and forth happening, and I think that Masquerain also was pretty valuable for him in this matchup. But overall, his biggest regret in this one was Raikou not using Roar. Although Roar would have been risky, because Komo-o not only has Bulletproof, which we saw it had when Raikou used Shadow Ball, it also has Soundproof. So that ability could have been something that blocked Roar anyways. It wasn't in the battle, but it's something that was there to take into consideration. But overall, it wasn't a terrible battle. The Roar misclick definitely, I think, could have been one of the biggest factors in which he lost this battle, but I don't think, even with that, I don't think it was a terrible one for him. So the next battle we have is versus Northern Necrozmas, and in this battle, he won. I do think that he used Ferrothorn and its defensive abilities to the best that he could. Northern Necrozmas, this was before Northern Necrozmas had Conkeldurr, which would have really helped in this matchup, but due to that, Ferrothorn was able to actually Leech Seed quite a few things, set up hazards, and Mantine couldn't roost because it had Power Whip, so after it roosted, Power Whip was super effective and ended up doing big damage combined with that Leech Seed. So this was a pretty tough matchup for Morgana, which DrizzleBoy also said. He said that the matchup was pretty tough since Rhydon and Ferrothorn were two Pokemon that were very hard to take down for Morgana, and he was able to Rock Polish at the end of the match to go for the sweep with Rhydon. So he combined their bulk and their offensive prowess together to be able to win this one. So now we have a Z transaction from Drapion to Slurpuff, and that was the Z Any privilege, I believe. Slurpuff being able to use Belly Drum without repercussions. I do think that he thought that the Z Crystal was consumed. I don't think the Z Crystal is consumed after you use Belly Drum, so it wouldn't have activated Unburden. So we actually never saw him go for the Z move with Slurpuff. I think he realized that after he made the exchange. So yeah, we never saw that come into play. And next we have Sun and Friendly versus Harlem Gloomtrotters. In this matchup, I think that Harlem Gloomtrotters was definitely able to go for some interesting tactics using Weather, especially Raikou with Weather Ball, to pressure out the grass types. Rhydon was also extremely valuable in this battle for him because he was able to set up a Stealth Rock, and that Stealth Rock severely hampered the 3 fire types on Sun and Friendly and prevented them from switching in and doing what they needed to do. So I think that that was a very good decision by him, and he definitely prepared well for this one. He showed that he was really excited to do this matchup, and I think that that was definitely something that he really showcased in this battle. In this battle, he didn't evolve Mega Evolve. It was a misclick, so he actually could have won by a little bit of a bigger margin if he had done it. I'm not sure, but it also is something to take into consideration. And Slurpuff at the end was able to sweep, aided by the knockoff predict from Shiftry. So overall, I think this was a really strong showing for him, and I think that he was really satisfied with this battle. Next, we have Harlem Gloomtrotters versus Patch 3.0 Ivysaurs. This was actually, he said, the hardest battle for him. It was pretty clear that he had trouble breaking through Mega Venusaur. His only really option versus Mega Venusaur was Latios. He didn't bring Mega Medicham, which I think would have helped him a lot in this battle. Latios did have some tools to break through Mega Venusaur and also break through Blissey and Celesteela, but it had a lot of weight on it because it had so many things that it needed to do. And once it was toxicked by Blissey, it had a really hard time breaking through. So I think Latios was going to be the star of this matchup, but it couldn't because it had so many roles that were really hard to fulfill when it was being worn down by Toxic. He still did do quite a few good plays, especially with Drapion going for the pursuit on Chandelure, for example. And he overall did have a solid game plan, especially some of the things that he brought. Flareon with Wish. Ferrothorn was decent, but Mega Venusaur walled it consistently. And Slurpuff actually this time did not bring the Belly Drum set, but rather a Choice Specs special attacking set. So he did go all out for this one. It didn't go in his favor. I do think it was still an interesting battle. Next time this matchup, well, there's no next time for this particular matchup, but if he had to do this matchup again, I think he definitely would bring Mega Medicham, because that would very much help him in this matchup. Next we have Harlem Gloomtrotters versus Moon Drinkers. And this battle was pretty close. I think he did have an advantage in the first half of the battle, where he was doing really well. Latios using Trick on Florges to give it a Choice Scarf and prevent it from doing its clerical role was actually a really smart move by him, and I think he utilized that quite well. Additionally, Latios just was really good for him as a special attacker in this matchup. The biggest hurdle for him was when Braviary came out and outsped Slurpuff. It used Frustration and brought Slurpuff down. Slurpuff consumed its Citrus Berry, but it still didn't have enough HP to go for the Belly Drum. If he was able to go for the Belly Drum, I think he actually could have taken this match, but he was not able to, and that was really what harmed him in this matchup. Even if he did manage to get a Belly Drum in, I'm not sure how it would have went, considering that, well, actually he wouldn't have been able to get a Belly Drum in that scenario. If he did, I think that would have been really interesting. Cough Egregious went down early too, so Mummy wouldn't have been able to stop Slurpuff in its sweep by using Unburden. So it was a really interesting matchup for sure. And Braviary did manage to take this one by sweeping at the end with its Frustration and Choice Scarf. Next was Blitz City Haxorus. This was also a very interesting battle. Lots of back and forth and switching. I think Rotom Wash was kind of the bane of his existence in this battle because it kept coming in and intercepting Ferrothorn and Rhydon. There was one unfortunate moment which RNG is a factor in this game because it just is. And Mega Medicham had set up a substitute, was ready to go for some strong offensive pressure, used High Jump Kick, which we saw later would have one-hit KO'd Rotom Wash, but it missed and did a lot of HP to itself, and in that moment, I think that was a big blow to his team because Mega Medicham was really valuable in this matchup. He did manage to use Ferrothorn to his ability. Talonflame was a threat to Ferrothorn, but Ferrothorn's Leech Seed and Protect did manage to do quite a bit of HP to some Pokemon while also restoring his own. I think another thing that Colin did pretty well in preparing for Slurpuff was giving the Focus Sash to Camerupt. That allowed it to live Drain Punch and bring Slurpuff down to range to be KO'd by Talonflame. Talonflame, of course, having Gale Wings and being able to outspeed at full health, and that's exactly what happened in the battle. So quite a bit did go wrong for DrizzleBoy, but I do still think that this was a great battle, and both of the trainers did really well. There was so much back and forth happening, and even though it was a loss, I don't think it was that big of a loss for him. So next we have a transaction from Jellicent to Gastrodon. He didn't really use Jellicent much, I think only in 1 or 2 matchups, and he did want that immunity to Electric for Gastrodon. I think especially after facing Rotom Wash and seeing how valuable a Pokemon that not only is immune to Electric, but can deal with other water types as well, would have really helped him. So I do think that this was a pretty good trade. And then Slurpuff gave up its Z-move power to Silvally, which again I do think was a good option considering how big Silvally's moveset is and its ability to utilize that, as well as Parting Shot's Z ability, which allows the next Pokemon who comes in to be fully healed. So I do think that this was also a good exchange as well. Next we have Harlem Gloomtrotters versus Ferocious Victini, which is Quest's team. And this was a hard one for him to face. Infernape did pose a really big threat, being able to beat out Cryogonal, Rhydon, Ferrothorn, and I think it gets Grass Knot even for Gastrodon. Infernape's speed and versatility in its moveset was really hard for him to deal with, as we see in the fact that Infernape managed to get 4 KOs. And Tapu Bulu was also a Pokemon that was very threatening. I do think that he did a good job putting Sludge Wave on Gastrodon though, which was enough to take down Tapu Bulu. That was really good foresight by him. Overall, this was the biggest loss that he faced. And I think he remarked that he could have done better in this battle. But overall, the biggest loss he faced being a -4 versus a very good opponent, I don't think it's really something to be ashamed of. And I think he definitely learned from this battle. The one thing that he really went for to try to take out Infernape was Ferrothorn, using Explosion in the beginning to try and take down Infernape, but Infernape went for U-turn instead of sticking around, and that Explosion did not end up working versus Infernape because it pivoted out. An interesting strategy, but high risk, high reward. Unfortunately, the risk was too great and there wasn't a reward. Ferrothorn definitely would have helped in this matchup, but I do appreciate that creativity. I think it was an interesting strategy for sure. And that is all the battles of Harlem Gloomtrotters led by DrizzleBoy. And we'll take a look and see his Pokemon records and how overall his Pokemon fared. According to DrizzleBoy, his favorite Pokemon to use... Actually, I don't think he gave me his favorite Pokemon. Yeah, he didn't say which Pokemon his favorite was to use. But he did mention that he did like using Slurpuff in some of his battle interpretations. And as we could see, Slurpuff did do a really good job with +4, Latios with +3, and then Ferrothorn also up there getting 7 KOs. So there's his Fairy Steel Dragon Core, which he utilized to his full extent. As we see, he used quite a bit of them, 70% usage on all of those, so he brought them a lot. And so I think those were probably the Pokemon he enjoyed using most. I think that he could have used Mega Medicham a little bit more. He did have a 70% usage rate, but it was such a valuable Pokemon for him, especially if he set up Sticky Webs. It really could have gone to town. So that's definitely a Pokemon that I think he could have used more. Cryogonal he also used quite a bit, especially considering he got it in the middle of the league as an exchange. And the Pokemon he exchanged, Avalugg and Jellicent, he didn't really use that much. I think he didn't like how passive they were, or how something else could have done their job better. So the exchanges that he did for those Pokemon definitely made sense. Silvally and Flareon have the lowest differential, but Flareon did have quite a good role for him in punching through some holes that he wasn't able to punch through otherwise. And there were a lot of Pokemon that Flareon did massive damage to, despite it only having a 1-4. Silvally was really good in pivoting using parting shot, so it was a little bit more of a support Pokemon than an all-out offensive Pokemon for him, which explains its low differential. Finally, Rhydon we saw him use creatively with Rock Polish and the sweeping set, so I do think he preferred Rhydon as an attacker using the Edgequake combo, which is very hard for Pokemon to come in on, as he says, because it has such good coverage. Okay, he did hit say the Pokemon that he liked using. I'm sorry. He said Slurpuff. It doesn't get a lot of love, but it has great potential as well as Rhydon. And yes, he did say very little resists Edgequake, and with Rhydon's coverage, no Pokemon is safe. So it does look like Slurpuff and Rhydon were his favorite Pokemon to use in the league. Which makes sense, because he brought them quite a bit, and they did him really well. So, really interesting cast in Harlem Gloomtrotters that he had. So finally, some of the moments that he liked a lot in the league. He definitely liked going for that Slurpuff sweep versus Lion Hugs, and he liked the match that he played versus my team, Sun and Friendly. And he did learn some stuff from the league. He learned that he should take his time a little bit more to make his decisions wiser and not so fast. And I think that he definitely showed how capable he is from the performance he did and from some of the unique strategies he managed to pull off. And I'm hoping that in the future he continues showing his prowess, especially, again, considering how he has done leagues before, but how he is new to the FNF Draft League. This is his first season, and he's such a young player, but he does so well, and I'm very proud of him and how he did. And he says that he's coming back next season stronger and ready to win. So let's hope that we see that. And thank you for joining the FNF Victory Road Draft League Season 2. Really glad that you were able to find it through YouTube. Come and join the community and become a part of the community and participate with us. So really great having you, DrizzleBoy. And it was a pleasure to see Harlem Gloomtrotters. Stay tuned for some more team analysis videos coming up. Harlem Gloomtrotters was the one we did today. There's going to be 6 more for those who did not make playoffs. And then we'll be going into the playoffs teams as well. So many interesting teams, so stay tuned for more. This is Noel from Sun and Friendly, and I'll catch you, rather, with more team analysis videos. So thank you for tuning in. See you next time.